Hello, good evening,
Hello.
and welcome. We're live in El Paso, Texas, and sunny, rainy, wet, soaking wet Northern Ireland. Marty.
You bought like Guinness. Hard to beat. How are we, Justin? You all right?
I'm all right. What on earth is that stuff sitting on your table there, Howler Head? What on earth is that nonsense?
I heard good things about this. Okay, this is all the sort of rage over here. There's loads of this kind of stuff being made. It's flavored whiskey, and they get away with calling it. This is straight bourbon whiskey with natural banana flavor. So, in the interest of trying these things, I bought it and given it a little bit of a whirl just to see, because I actually kind of like banana flavoring. So I'd heard good things about it. I was lied to because it's bloody awful. It's I'm going to have a shot in a shot glass, a Billy the Kid shot glass. Let me see. This is how this is supposed to be drank. Okay, by very pissed up young teenagers. Tastes like cough syrup. Bloody awful.
Does it remind you of that banana liqueur you get in Tenerife that you can actually quite rightly mix with stuff and stuff like that? No,
that is awful. Awful. That's like taking your kids to McDonald's and telling them that you're actually feeding them. It's awful.
Ugh. I don't think there's anything wrong with McDonald's.
Yeah, but it's not actually, let's be honest, it's not proper food.
It's not meat and two veg, but you get bored with that.
No,
you get bored with that.
Yeah, sorry.
So with a packed show tonight, if you're watching, let us know. Lots of people saying hello already to Marty. We've got Thomas Jones saying hello. Tony Sillett is saying hello. Eric Van End is saying hello. Frank Hearn, greetings to all. He's looking forward to another great show. How do you do those shows, great or not? Sir Maurice is sitting there wondering what on earth he's got himself in for. It's been a year since we've had him on. Hard to believe, but it has. Looking forward to this tonight. Oh yeah, and by the way, I drunk all your samples at Sir Maurice.
Oh, don't worry. I'll bounce the bottles off your head when I get back again.
All right. Trevor Watson saying good evening. William McLaren saying good evening. Linda Cox is saying hello. And Patrick Bambrick is saying good evening as well. Shall I hit the theme tune?
Hit it.
Wow.
Brilliant. Now, the news. A few stories here that there's not an awful lot of flesh on the bones of, but I think when I tell you what they've released, you'll kind of understand why this. I think it's maybe worth flagging up. Diageo has said they're running out of whiskey. Now, they've said
that's not a good sign. Not a good sign.
But what they said was that they are running out of aged spirit because the sales have increased. But once you start looking at some of the figures that they released and so on and so forth, I think you kind of get a bit more of where the corporate thing is going. They've said that Crown Royal, Lagavulin, and some of their aged tequila and stuff is running out. It's selling so much because sales soared through the pandemic. But actually, their sales in the US are down 5% because they couldn't supply enough Lagavulin primarily. Now, how are they going to combat that? How are they going to counter this? Because, you can't just magically conjure up 8-year-old or 10-year-old or 12-year-old or 16-year-old spirit just like that. So what they've said is they're going to raise the price.
Hold on a minute here. Are they intentionally rationing it like Whispers to create fake demand, or what's going on?
I don't think that's what they're doing. I think basically what they're saying is there's certain products that they know they can sell and that they can fire them up and everything will be, and they'll always be able to sell them. So they'll put the price of those up a little bit. And then they said that what they're going to do is stuff that they have plenty of, they're going to put more money into the advertising. Now, what I would suggest is expect to see much more Johnny Walker advertising floating about. I think this is pretty much one of the key things that Diageo are going to be doing is trying to push Johnny Walker. They know that Red Label is the biggest selling. It sells all over the world. It sells in vast quantities. They've brought out some of the more premium, the Blue Label, and so on. So they kind of cover everything with one brand. And I think you'll probably see much more Johnnie Walker advertising. They've just opened that brand new place up in Princess Street in Edinburgh. That's going to be a big push. That's going to be the sort of keystone of their tourist offering. So this is them sort of telling you Lagavulin's going up in price. So is some of the other age stuff. But we've still got Johnnie Walker.
Let me guess, they wouldn't be doing this so as when it goes up in price and the tax goes off, it's still the same price.
Who knows what they're going to do. But put it like this, just expect to see a lot more Johnnie Walker advertising. I think that's where you're going to, it's them basically telling you that's what they're going to be doing.
What's next this week?
This is a story that popped up on whiskeycast.com. And this is really, really interesting, troubling, maybe something that will not prove any major issue at all. But I think it probably has some legs. The Kentucky private selection barrels have had a flag raised about the legality of it. Now, private selection cask is basically where you or I own a restaurant, a pub, or a hotel, or ourselves, whatever, it doesn't really matter. We go down, we inspect different casks, and then say, we really like that one, we'll buy that cask. Okay?
Okay,
now,
with you.
That seems fairly straightforward. But the Kentucky Alcoholic Beverage Control Board, they sound like a fun bunch of guys to be talking to, you know. They
aren't the people that give you all that paperwork that looks like something out of a prohibition area when you're applying for something, is it?
I would imagine so, yes. Now, what has been flagged up is that the law doesn't make any difference between trade visitors and tourists, essentially, or people just coming in off the street. And the law states that any visitor can purchase 1 9-litre case per day. Now, if you're buying a cask, there could be 200 litres in the cask. So that's more than 9 litres. Now, for you to sample, the law states that you are allowed 1.75 ounces can be consumed a day per person, which is 51 millilitres, which seems unbelievably small. That's the amount you can give away. Now, if you go around different casks, say you and I are going to buy a cask, and you go around and me and you sample 10 casks, we'll take in more than 51 millilitres of whiskey. So on two counts, essentially they're breaking the law. Now, there's been a sort of grace period put out under this, but the implications for this across the other states, I mean, you have to remember America is essentially 50 different countries, and if you add in DC and and whatnot, it becomes a bit more cloudy. Now, this is big business. There are companies that basically sell casks. That's essentially what they do.
Well, you always were a bit skeptical about some of these cask sales, weren't you?
Yeah, but this is actually flagging up the legality of it at the very point of sale. Now, for some of the newer distilleries, this is how they make their money. You know, we've got Sir Maurice coming on later on, and he's talking about wanting to build his own distillery. And cask sales over here in the States is one thing. Back home, probably a different matter. But it does flag up some of the legalities of all of this and how the law essentially is. I mean, the laws in the States, some of them are still stuck in the prohibition era. So a lot of people have a lot of money invested in casks, and it could prove legally very difficult. It's a great article. It's really, really worth going to Whiskey Cask and having a read at it. And with all the new distilleries that have opened in the States, maybe there's plenty of counties in Kentucky and Tennessee and all these places that don't even sell alcohol. It's a very sort of taboo subject in certain places. So who knows where this could end up? It could end up being proven quite sticky for people who have an awful lot of money invested and an awful lot of investment made in their distilleries. So who knows? It's certainly well worth having a look at. So
this next one's a weird one because you haven't been too impressed with some of the rebrandings that have been done recently, have you?
No, some of them I think haven't been great, but I like this. The Walsh Distillery have brought out rebranded the Irishman. And the Irishman is one of those brands that a lot of people really, really, really like, but they don't necessarily get the publicity and promotion. I don't think they really need it, to be honest, that some of the other brands get.
Wow, they're catchy. They are catchy.
I think they look really, really sharp. They look better. They look better than the old ones, and the old ones weren't bad, but these look an awful lot better. Now, the Walsh Distillery, the Walsh whiskey was taken over by Amber Beverages, so I imagine that this is probably why this rebranding has taken place. One of the cool things about it, actually, if you look at the label, it's actually got Braille on the label, which is kind of a nice touch. You know, it's. I sometimes think a lot of the Braille stuff on labels, and you see them on doorways. Now, if you're blind and you're looking around trying to find like a 3-inch tall bit of Braille to tell you how you get out, it's probably a bit gimmicky. But it's a nice touch. It's nice, you know. I think it looks pretty sharp. And that's probably coincide with the fact that Walsh was bought over at the end of last year. So it's nice.
Interesting stuff. They're quite contemporary looking.
I think they look sharp. I really do. Walsh Distillery also make Writer's Tears, which is another brand that if you haven't tried Writer's Tears, I thoroughly suggest you do. It's really, really good quality stuff, really affordable, really approachable, really nice. And they have a few different bottlings out, but they are bringing out a bottle to coincide with the centenary of the publication of Ulysses by James Joyce, which is probably the book least read by people who claim to have read it. Honestly, so many people claim to have read it and they haven't. They just know they haven't.
Sir Maurice has just gone to his library and has got 2 original copies and he's put them out side by side. No, he hasn't.
Signed copy. Now, this is Bernard Walsh, who's the founder of Walsh Whiskey, and they've been. Writer's Tears refers to writer's block, and the instead of having legs on your whiskey, you've got Writer's Tears. That's actually in Sweeney's in Dublin, in Lincoln Place. And if you ever
he looks the part there. He looks the part, doesn't he?
But anytime you're in Sweeney's, you sort of feel the part. It's a super little place, just round from Merrion Square, and you can see in the foreground there the little bars of soap. Now, the start of Ulysses, Leopold Bloom, the hero of the piece, goes into Sweeney's and buys some lemon scented soap, and they still make the lemon scented soap. You can buy it, and it's one of the few instances where you can actually sort of smell history. It's a fabulous place. Now they're bringing out a special collector's edition. That'll cost lots of money, Justin.
Don't worry, I'll be on the app to the Celtic Whiskey Shop like that there with bated breath to try and get it.
They're bringing out a special collector's edition, Writer's Tears Copper Pot, which is to celebrate that. Now, there's lots of events there. If you go on to, I think you have it's walshwhiskey.com, Ulysses Centenary. You can see they've got events coming up. They've got readings. They've got stuff taking place basically all year to commemorate the publishing of a book all about Dublin. And I said this the other day, anybody, if you've never read Ulysses, and I don't blame you for not reading it, it's very, very difficult to read. The last third of the book, there's no punctuation written in it, which makes it quite difficult.
Just listen to
it. Listen to it on audiobook, and then you can actually read it really easily because it all makes sense. But do it because it's a fabulous book. It's amazing. You can dip in and out of it. You open it, any page, read 10 pages of it, put it away again. It's that kind of book. It's super. So yeah, really, really good.
Now we've had a couple of good questions in tonight so far. Let me see.
For some reason I can't see the questions yet.
Oh, you can't see the questions tonight. Mark Curry does like Writer's Tears.
That's great stuff.
Graham Horner's saying hello. Mark Diamond is saying, evening, folks. Great result for today's rugby. Yes. And,
hammered wheels.
And Alistair Minnis is evening from Speyside on a tasting weekend. He's trying to make us jealous.
I'm going to have another Howlet. No. It's disgusting. I'm going to. I'll tell you what. I'll have a wee witchy, a wee mortlach. Big fan of mortlach. I like that. Yeah. Now, another rebranding coming up. Not an awful lot of information about it. Suntory, who own Cooley, they're going to rebrand the Kilbeggan apparently. Not a huge rebranding. I think it's just a bit more clarification on labels and stuff. But they're doing that. Yeah. So all good. New launches. One that happened this week. Our old friend Max Vaughan of the White Peak Distillery over in England, up in the Derwent Valley, just up north of Derby, who Nottingham Forest beat the other week for the Brian Clough Cup. Anyway, I digress. They brought out their initial launch and sold out in seconds. Initial launches these days it's nearly impossible to get unless you're sort of really in the know and decide then to go for auction sites. The 5,016 bottles released, lightly peated at 50.3% ABV, non-chill filtered. Always looks all sold out. But the bottle looks absolutely fabulous. Pull that up full screen. Now, it's called Wireworks because where they are in an old wire factory, which is the Derwent Valley's. It's really where the Industrial Revolution started. I mean, it transformed the entire planet. But I mean, the bottle looks super. It's got sort of fluting coming down the side of it, or like raised glass, and then it twists into wire. And I think they had real problems getting the production, COVID and all the rest of the problems. But I think the bottle looks absolutely superb. That twisted sort of neck on it.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful looking.
It looks beautiful.
It is, Marty. Yeah, it definitely does.
If you go onto their Facebook page, there's some pictures about it. There's you actually see a picture of the mold of the bottle. That was a drawing, and it looks. I think that looks fabulous. It looks like an old engineering drawing for.
Looks like one of those things for phrenology or something like that, isn't it? Isn't that what?
One of them orgasmatrons. I bet you probably have one of them now.
I think is that the molding? Is it? Yeah,
that's the mold for the ball. If you pull that up full screen,
I'll try and bring it up. That's as big as I can get it. The angle it's at. Yeah.
Yeah, but
that's impressive, cool. That isn't it?
It does. It looks cool, and it's nice that getting this kind of stuff done is never cheap. And getting it designed, getting it molded and machined and stuff. So excellent. It's been very well received. Anybody I've seen that's tasted it has it's thought it's very good. Now it's lightly peated, which I'm not sure just how much that is, but yeah, it's.
I've got lightly peated stuff here.
We'll get to that in a minute.
All right. No. I can't. I've jumped the gun. No. The horse has bolted the door. The horse has bolted the.
No, well, you can play the video. I saw this the other day and I thought it was hilarious. We're back to Kentucky again. We're back over to Kentucky. So play the video.
Yep, we are getting a check inside Barn 6 and introducing you to some of those extra bourbon tasters that will be along for the ride. So over here, I have Barbara along with Dubious Miss. Talk to me about these racehorses that kind of get to join the party.
Yeah, so these guys are both 17 years old now. They both were very successful racehorses. Between Dubious Miss and Future Prospect over there, they've won about $1 million between the two of them. And it's just amazing that we get to share this space with amazing retired athletes and that people get this great hands-on interaction with them.
It's a pretty cool experience because they get to feed peppermints just like I do while they're tasting incredible bourbon. So here are the two options for your flights. Can you walk me through just a little bit of this?
Yeah, so what we want to do is we want to embody the best of what Kentucky has to offer as far as bourbon goes. So we have a rotational lineup of things like mainline products from across the Bourbon Trail, lots of fan favorite brands here. And then we also host a variety of different single barrels. Every single barrel of bourbon is a little bit unique. Our staff picked these out specifically for our guests to enjoy.
And talk to me about the atmosphere that you've created in here. I do see heaters. That's good news.
Yes, we want to keep this very comfortable, cozy for people all throughout the year. And we really want to give people that really immersive atmosphere of being able to sip bourbon in a racehorse barn.
It's really cool. You can actually book these experiences online now. We will have that link posted to our website, WLKY.com. Alex Durham, WLKY News.
Thank you, Alex. And there are 2 bourbon tastings to choose from. One is $25 and the other is $50.
And back to you, Marty.
No.
WLKY, WKRP Cincinnati.
The reason that this made me giggle was they're talking about going for a whiskey tasting in stables while the horses are still there. Now, single cask. Oh, thanks very much. I'm getting loads of horse shit. Loads of more horse shit. Sorry, Zuckerberg. I know Zuckerberg lost 250 billion this week, so he's probably in a bad mood with us. But,
it's not a good look, Marty, is it?
No, I can understand wanting to go and see the horses and stuff, yeah. But it's going to be kind of hard to get the nuances of a whiskey while there's a horse farting just down the next stable down from me.
Yes. It's for Americans that think horses are made of plastic and they're not real animals. I think that's what it's for. Yeah,
it's funny because when I saw it and I thought and had a giggle about it, I was reminded of a story about the Queen's coronation, which is kind of topical. The Queen's coronation. At the coronation, the Queen Mother was riding in the carriage along with the King of Tonga, and the horses in front of the carriage and all there. And the Queen Mother goes, "Oh, I'm very sorry." And he says, "Oh, don't worry, I thought it was the horse."
Here. I've got to say it. The people that hold glasses up like that would go, lots of hay notes.
Oh,
lots of hay notes.
Hay notes.
Lots of hay notes.
Can you imagine? I mean, good on them. I hope everybody goes and has a good time at it. But sitting there with a horse, right beside you while you're nosing a single cask whiskey. I don't think so.
That's mad. Absolutely mad. Absolutely madness. Yes. Yeah. What's it? Hermitage Farm. It is it? Is that what it's called?
That's what it's called. And if you're in that part of the world and you do think that's something you'd like to do, you can go onto the website and you can buy the basic one where you get Elijah Craig and Maker's Mark, etc. And then there's a VIP tasting where you get single cask stuff, so you can go in there and have a look at it. But
yeah, you get to feed the horses. You get apples for the horses. Look at this here. Did you see I put my job application in for Slave League Distillers? Did you see that?
I did. Now, James shared this on social media the other day. Someone was applying for a job. You can see it says CV, and then they've wrote the email address on an envelope and posted it. I think James should consider giving the postman the job because he actually got to his offices. Now, Justin, I know you're put in for a few jobs. I'm just wondering, this wouldn't be an act of genius on your part, because
well, it has gone viral. I mean, it's 126 likes, 27 comments, and 5 shares, and I'm sure it's more than that now.
I'm sure it probably is. I thought it was brilliant. How confident would you be of giving someone a job who doesn't know how to work the post, doesn't know how stamps work? Yeah. So, needless to say, I saw it again. I had another giggle at that. But, yeah.
It's madness. Well, here, listen, we'll probably run over tonight because we want to give Sir Maurice a good whack of the show. We've got a couple of other stories, don't we? Yeah.
Well, we don't have another story. We have something that I saw. It was posted on social media the other day, and I thought it was unbelievably relaxing. Now, again, it's an American whiskey. It's Blanton's, and it's them putting the little wax seal just around the thing. I thought this was kind of hypnotic. It was almost sort of meditative. So play this.
I just delivered it yesterday. I had no clue I could.
And Silver Streak is ahead by 2 lengths, and coming up in the rear is Silver.
As Feed the Pony coming up on the outside. Honestly, I watched that about 50 times. You know, super stuff.
Now, while you were away, I entered a competition, and I fancy my chances of winning it.
Oh, what competition's that, Justin?
The poetry one for the whiskey.
Yeah.
Your legs straddled my glass long and fine. Toasted oak and spices fill the air. I breathe you in, scent so divine. You're a limited edition, but I don't care. I whisk you up, I must replenish. My lust for you, please don't diminish. You move down through me a perfect finish.
Now, we all like a perfect finish, don't we, Justin? That sounds vaguely familiar. That sounds almost as if it's exactly the poem that John Redmond sent me during the week.
Who's John Redmond?
John sent that during the week, and I kind of thought Justin thought you would jump on board. So yeah, well done, John. Well done. I hope you entered it into the competition, and the best of luck that we talked about last week.
Well, it's time to meet a man that we spoke to before. It's been a year. Here he is, live.
Good evening.
Sir Maurice, how are you?
It's just Maurice.
Yes.
Marty, for someone who claims not to like that banana flavoured whiskey, there's rather a lot gone out of the bottle, I noticed.
Yeah. The thing about it is, it's not that much out of it whenever you consider it's about 2 shots of it in 2 weeks. It's absolutely foul.
Well, maybe you can feed it to the horses next time you go down to that place in Kentucky.
Well, you never know. I'm sure the horses will probably enjoy it well enough. But yeah. So, Maurice, how are you? How's things going?
Very well, thank you. We've been busy. Since we launched 2 years ago. I mean, it doesn't seem like that. But very busy.
I do have to admire your surroundings, where you are. That's the kind of room you really should be drinking whiskey in. That's how whiskey should be drunk in a room like that.
Thank you. I can't say I've read all of the books. There's a few more of them as well. So and I didn't have a check to see whether we have a copy of Ulysses. We probably do somewhere, but I haven't read it, and I must start now. I'm very ashamed of that.
No, well, what you do is you say that you've read it, because most people who say they've read it haven't.
Yeah, but then I'd come across someone like you, Marty, and then you'd call me out on it. So,
trust me, do you read it? It's fabulous.
I've read bits of it. The bits going around Dublin, but not enough of it to make sense.
Now, Wayward Irish Spirits.
Yep.
You've been up and running now for a period of time. Tell us a bit more about how you got started. How did you enter this Irish whiskey world?
Well, we launched 2 years ago, straight into COVID. We launched on February 29th, and then 2 weeks later we had COVID, so plans had to change. It's been something we've been planning now for. It was about 2016 when we pushed the button on this project. So we had to go when we were ready, and 2020 was when that was.
Yeah.
The Wayward Irish Spirits, and we're a family company based on Lochleen in Killarney, on land that's been in my family for about 900 years. Our main whiskey is the Liberator Irish Whiskey, named after my great-great-great-granduncle, Daniel O'Connell, who was famously accused of being that wayward Irishman by Robert Peel, the British Prime Minister. So we sort of
who found at the police station. Who found at the police, by the way? That's why we call them peelers. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Well done. And yeah, he called Daniel O'Connell that wayward Irishman, and the family have taken that on with pride. This is where we are on Lochleen. On a good day, it's not like that this evening. I've rated vile here this evening, so that's on a good day. So Do you have other slides there, Marty? Are you going to? Sorry,
Well,
Justin, are you going through them?
Yes, I'm going to go through them. Whatever you
Okay.
want to talk about, I can bring it up,
Okay.
Morris. So there's no problem there. Yep.
Yep. Just the family history. We've been from about 1450. We were importing wines and spirits from Spain and Portugal into a place called Ballycarbery Castle down the coast from here, and that was a perfectly legitimate business in those days. And Cromwell came and sacked the castle. It hasn't changed much since about 1628, when it was like that, and it still is even now. And we moved up the coast to a place called Derrynane, and that coincided with the English Parliament bringing in excise duties. So what had been a legitimate business until then suddenly became taxable, and it's not really the Kerry way or the Irish way, even
Not really.
especially not the O'Connell way, just to bow to rules imposed from afar. So we carried on the business, but then they started calling it smuggling. But this is built up over 200 years to a really successful, profitable business under a namesake of mine, another Maurice O'Connell, called Hunting Cap.
Hunting Cap.
Yeah, and he so called because he had another falling out with the tax people. They brought in a tax on gentlemen's hats, so he started wearing this hunting hat. So he is known as Maurice Hunting Cap O'Connell from then on. But he had 7 ships going to and fro from the continent, bringing in luxury goods, and his customers would have been the gentry of Kerry. So they didn't want their supply chain interrupted. So it carried on very happily for a couple of hundred years until in around 1820, when Daniel O'Connell was becoming politically prominent and Hunting Cap was 95. He was going blind. The revenue, who had thus far managed not to have any effect on his activities, were threatening to send gunboats up Kenmare Bay to shell his house. So the family decided that now was the time to go legit. So in 1820, my side of the family moved here to Killarney, and we've been here ever since.
I think that's probably a sensible business decision. When they send gunboats, when they're threatening to send gunboats to put you out of business, it's probably a good idea to go legit.
It probably is, yeah. But,
Well, the scary thing is that's actually older than Carrickfergus Castle, which is 1180. So that's some lineage.
Right. Well, the lineage actually is. I mean, every whiskey brand has to have a fake date involved in it. So
No, but you really have it. You really have it.
but you have to choose which one. I sort of prefer 1661 as the date when we started going wayward. You could go back to 1450, but the land we are on here is land that was originally in my mother's family. They're the McCarthys. So between my mother's family and my father's family, we've been here 900 years. So
I'm in the States. We're in earlier than 1950 has the word historic.
Yeah, exactly.
Anybody in America, this is genuine history. This is actually historic. Now, you started Wayward Irish Spirits. You obviously are sourcing your whiskey. You're sourcing it because you don't have your own distillery currently. We'll get to that.
We have two sides to the business. We grow our own barley on the estate, which is distilled for us into pot still by Great Northern Distillery, and that comes back here to be matured on the estate. And we are shortly launching this. This is not the £500,000 Irishman rebrand. This is just a mock-up of the direction where we're going in it. It's a decanter bottle, but this is pot still that's been grown here and matured here. So it has most of the things that affect the taste and the flavour are governed by what happens here. It's distilled for us by Great Northern to our mash bill and to our specification. I take advice from them on what's a good way to go, but we have a 50-50 malted, unmalted mash bill, which gives a very oily, rich and
Slightly spicy.
Slightly spicy whiskey, which is tasting really well.
Sure is.
Justin has a sample of it there.
Oh, aye.
You have a sample as well, Marty, but I suspect Justin's already had it.
Past tense. Marty had one. Gubbins probably drank it.
I've got 3 beautiful samples here.
Oh, brilliant.
So that's that. So what we're planning in 2024 is to start distilling just the grain that we're growing on the estate. So that'll be pure single estate grain to glass distillery. And alongside that, we have our Liberator range of sourced whiskies. These are we're sort of recreating the traditional whiskey bonding, and the people on here this evening probably know what a whiskey bonder is, so I won't.
It's always nice.
No, it's always better to explain things because there's new people tuning in all the time.
Yeah.
Right. Well, in the days before we had the big brands, pubs, merchants would receive their their wines and brandies and sherries and ports in barrels, and they'd sell off the contents, and they'd be left with an empty barrel. They'd wonder what to do with it, and they discovered that if they brought it to their local distillery, they could fill it with spirit and create new, interesting whiskies for house whiskies. So each pub, each merchant would have its own style of whiskey, and everyone would be different. Every town would be different. So we're bringing that into the 21st century. So what we do, you mentioned Great Northern. Yeah, we source from Great Northern, but we also source from 5 other distilleries, and we've laid down stock now, quite a lot of stock from 6 distilleries, and we're adding to those all the time. And basically, what we're trying to do is to build up a library of flavors that we can blend into new and interesting whiskies.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, the 2 whiskies we have on the market at the moment are a malt whiskey in a Tawny Port finish. Now, this was our launch product, and it's from we sourced really fresh Tawny Port casks, which we got personally and refilled here within 2 weeks. Sorry, those were 3 weeks. Within 3 weeks of them being disgorged in Portugal, so they were really fresh and really strong port finish from them.
Yeah.
We also have a blended whiskey, which is finished in ruby and Tawny Port casks. So I like port finishes, and my view is that if I'm never able to sell them, at least I can drink a storehouse full of them. But in our sourcing, we try and control as much of the process as possible. We get this spirit distilled for us to our mash bill, in consultation with the distiller in the distillery, and mature it in casks that we've sourced, and then they will be finished, blended, and bottled here on the estate. We try and do as much as we can on the estate. We don't get other people to bottle for us because we can bottle when we're ready to do so, and we can take our time to do it properly.
Yeah. Now you say you're sourcing from 6 distilleries. Can you tell us what 6 or?
I can tell you a few of them. The deal we have with 2 of them is that we're not allowed to use their name until it actually goes into the bottle. Then we're allowed to be to reveal them, because I mean they only sell to us because they need cash, and maybe they don't necessarily need. Some of them only sell to us because they need cash. So we source from we have West Cork, we have Cooley, we have Great Northern, we have Clonakilty, we have Dublin Liberties, and there's others being added at the moment. So there will be more.
They all good names. I mean,
absolutely.
I think,
and it's really important that the distillate is good quality.
I mean,
there are a couple we've decided and not taken from.
Well, West Cork, I mean, what West Cork do, how versatile that spirit is, unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Now, where you are is very, very important, because a lot of people, Ireland's not a very big place, let's be honest, it's not big, but the climate in it is, I'm about as far away when I'm in Glenarm on the Northampton coast as it's possible to be from you. And unfortunately, you get the Gulf Stream down there, and by the time it gets to me, it's kind of gone.
Well, that's it. I'm glad you asked. I didn't prime you to ask that, but the microclimate here is special.
It's special.
We have 4 seasons in a day, we say here.
Yeah,
and
extreme seasons in a day.
And extreme seasons, because where we are is we have the Gulf Stream. There are mountains in front of us, Ireland's highest mountains, the Maclicuddy Reeks, and a lake in front of the estate. So the combination of those 3 mean that the land here is really wet. As a child, it was an absolute pain because there's no sun. It's very wet, and you don't know what the weather's going to be like in an hour's time. But as it happens, that's really good for whiskey maturation, because each of those changes in pressure changes how the spirit interacts with the wood. Because as the spirit expands, it goes into the wood, and when it contracts, it comes out of the wood through the layer of charcoal, which purifies it and softens it, but also taking in some of the flavors from the wood. And what we have here is different. We can't say it's better. It is better, but oh yeah, here we are. This graph. We've been recording the temperature here in our bonded storehouse for the last 4 years, and I think this was last year. Now, whiskey, the interaction between wood and spirit happens when the temperature is above 7 degrees. Now, this line that you see, dotted line, is 7 degree mark. So there's, in that period, I think there was 2 days where it was below 0, but for 10 months of the year, it's over 7 degrees. So this activity within the barrel is happening then. If you go to somewhere like Islay, they've got a maturation season of 6 months. So it's very important for the whiskey also to rest between the maturation. So it's not you can't say that because it's 10 months, it's that much better than 6 months. But it is different, and something different is happening. We come in some mornings and the whiskey is seeping up through the bungs of the barrels.
Wow,
which is worrying. It's worrying because you don't want to lose too much of it. That happens very occasionally. And you've probably got a picture of our bonded storehouse there. It's a 300-year-old stone building with 2-foot thick walls. And a part of the floor has no damp course, so there's a lot of humidity from the earth coming up. The picture you see there is of our future still house. So it's humid as is everywhere in Kerry, and these walls keep the temperature stable. But there is this pressure variation all the time, and
the humidity must play a part there too, because
it does.
You know, the humidity in that Gulf Stream image that we're showing, that's actually warm air warm current coming up.
There's not a lot of warmth in it most of the time, to be honest.
Well, put like this, you should be in Glenarm, and then you'll see what the difference is. But to be fair, that bringing up all that weather, if you like, is probably a good way of putting it. And those variations are going to have that effect on the cask. You know, they are going to breathe the cask, if you like. You know, it's coming in and out of the wood.
This courtyard would be the stables block, and
on the right hand side is our maturation storehouse. In the foreground, you can see an archway leading into that area, and above that is a plaque in Chinese which was put up by a great uncle of mine who spent a lot of time in the Far East, and he put up this sign, which in Chinese reads "House of Contentment." So our maturation storehouse has been renamed the House of Contentment. But what we found out afterwards was that the House of Contentment is apparently a euphemism in Chinese.
Yes, I know.
For brothel.
I know. I know.
So
we'll be getting Zuckerberg, Marty. We'll be getting Zuckerberg.
So he was having a joke at our expense, I suppose. and then on the left hand side there, you can see the future still house for the barley that we're growing. The barley grows in the field just beyond those trees, which is called the hilly field. And so you can stand in there, see where the barley is grown. It's matured in the right-hand side building, and it will be distilled in the building on the left-hand side. So it's very personal. It's very much of this place. And that's what we wanted to bottle what we have here and sell that, basically.
Now, you must obviously then buy into the whole terroir. Obviously you're very well aware of Waterford and Mark Rainier and stuff's doing. So you must buy into this. You must think that where hilly field that's there, that everything being done on site is going to have a taste of the area, the taste of that estate in the bottle.
I can certainly say that from the maturation point of view. On the fact that it's grown here, I haven't tasted enough different new make spirits from different pot still to be able to tell what's different for the terroir compared to the mash bill and the fermentation and the other aspects of it. This is the 2020 harvest. You see there, it's all. I mean, you look up the country, you look at the videos of Waterford, and in the southeast they have huge areas of grain under harvest, and they have these vast machines which cost hundreds of thousands. Very few people grow barley around here because it's wet, because it's challenging, and because you can lose the crop as easily as grow it. So we have these elderly combine harvesters, and I think one of the previous shots showed harvest day. What happens is that all the old guys come out and comment on the crop. It's really lovely, and
I could just picture them.
It's very special. And they're really hoping that the machine will break down so they can look under the hood and sort it out. And last year we were very lucky in that we had a friend locally who is obsessed with horse-drawn machinery, and so we cut a share of the barley with a horse-drawn cutter. And that was very special.
I'm sure probably
the noise, just the click clack, and the man controlling the horses was very special. And then
there's something special about manual things and
absolutely
animals,
except if you have to use it, because it was great for 100 yards or so. But if we were doing, last year we grew 21 acres of barley. If we were doing the whole 21 acres by hand, by the horse-drawn things, it would have taken us days and days and days. So we didn't.
We're being asked questions, Maurice. Alexandru is saying, can whiskey enthusiasts visit the site now?
Give me a call. We don't do tours. We do. It's a brand home at the moment, and we have distributors and people like that, and the trade visitors. But if I can, I try to accommodate geeks, so other geeks. So
I know a man in his camper van, William McClellan here, says, really selling this whiskey, sir. He says he wants some.
Well. So Justin, can I suggest that you open the glass, the sample of the single estate.
I'll have a howler head monkey thing. If you don't keep me some of that for whenever I come back, Justin, by the way.
Yeah,
Correct Fergus is going to have another.
I'd really like feedback on this. The problem is when you're making whiskey, they're all your babies. They're all very special, and it's very difficult to be objective. But this, to me, is very special. So it's got a very, very rich nose. There's fruit cherries in it, and that wonderful linseed oil, the really thick oil. If you swirl it around in your glass, the legs on it are it's very oily. So
it is.
This is actually a 3-year-old whiskey. Well, sorry, it's 2 year 10.5 month old spirit, but it will be whiskey on March the 12th this year, and it's already drinking really well, and really drinking beyond its age. So that's my view.
Justin, do me a favor. Justin, do me a favor. Go lick that up to the glass just to let me see the oil in it. Just.
You can see it's oily. You can see it's oily.
I can't. Right.
So it's a 50-50 mash bill we use on that because we wanted to. I wanted to have quite a lot of malt in it. So
listen, I don't have Marty's expertise, and I didn't read the label because I always take a secret sip whenever they arrive, and I put it up to my nose and I looked at it and I says, "Gosh, that's peaty," and I looked and that's the peaty one, and then I looked at that one and I thought, okay, what's this one? And then I tasted it, and then when I put my glasses on, because I wear glasses, you see, I put my glasses on and I read, yes, ex-peated cask. So I'm beginning to get a bit of a nose for this.
It's very subtle, and maybe we haven't made it subtle enough because these have been matured in French red wine casks. It's actually they're actually Mouton Rothschild casks, though I'm not allowed to say that apparently. So
okay.
I never.
Your secret is safe with us.
But they've been shaved and retoasted, so you're getting a lot of the virgin wood out of it as well. But there's still somebody's asking, well, John Fleming, you keep being offered samples, but you keep giving them away. So I'll bring one into you, John.
I certainly wouldn't be making a cocktail with this. This stands on its own.
But actually, we have 1 or 2 casks of it that we're finishing in an ex-peated cask. We had to empty the peated cask. So we've reused that cask, and it's actually been in this. It's just been one cask has been finished in the peated cask for the past 3 months. So it's not long at all. So we might actually have to take it out before it goes too far.
Before it goes too far. Now,
but the idea was to take some of the edge off it, but there isn't really much of an edge. This is actually cut to 46%, so it's very drinkable, I think.
Now you have done port and peated casks, before, which is unusual. I mean, most. It's adding in these layers of complexity.
Well, peat is a wonderful thing because it brings out the flavors of other things. So we have this wonderful port finished whiskey and you can actually add an extra layer to it by putting in just the smallest hint of peat. And so
I've tasted the port and peat, and I think it works really well. I think you've done a really, really good job there. It doesn't have a huge amount of peat. So if you're a peat monster, an Ardbeg or a Lafroig man or something like that, this isn't for it. It basically just adds. It takes. To be honest, I'm having a drop of this. Okay, now, lots of people will say, "Oh, this is fabulous. This is the best whiskey. Oh, it's lovely, lovely, lovely." It's a bit overly sweet, and I'm not a sweetie person. So whenever I get a port cask, it's not as sweet. I'm probably a bit more of a fan of Tawny Port than Ruby Port.
Tawny would be drier, and
Drier.
but I think you sort of need the sweetness as well. And
Yeah.
the Tawny is fig to me, and with our malt and Tawny Port, somebody right at the beginning said to me, "Oh, it tastes like a fig roll." And just say that to anybody in Ireland, and they know exactly what they're tasting. Anybody abroad, they don't understand.
They don't. They think biscuits are scones over here. They don't really understand the thing at all. But
I hate biscuits, by the way. They're a terrible thing. But anyway,
But the thing is, you've got this range of different flavors of different cask finishes. Now the casks themselves, you have tried to. The casks themselves are family friendly to you, aren't they? I remember
that's really important to me. It just feels, I love the circularity of bringing these elements of our history back together. But the whole thing is, it has to taste good. That's the bottom line. The history is all very well, and that'll make it an interesting story to talk about while you're drinking it. But the whiskies have to taste good, and that's what we try and do.
So when I say that the casks have a meaning to you, they're old family friends, and your wife has a connection here too, doesn't she?
She has, yeah. Her family have property up in the north of Portugal, and all the neighbours there are the port wine families. And I'm just watching John Fleming's notes here, trying to ignore them. So they're all the Taylors, the Symingtons, and I asked Taylors. Our immediate neighbour up there is the guy who runs Taylors, and I asked him for one of his casks, but he wouldn't sell it to me for less than $2,000. So we're still negotiating on that one. But the casks we have, the fresh casks we have, are from Roz's, which is a brand of Piper Heidsieck, and very well regarded, but not very well known here. The Tawny Port casks are about 25 years old, very fragile, but just huge flavour in them, and it's actually quite difficult to replicate that going forward, I suspect. So,
this is the problem. You set your bar high. You set your bar high to start with.
Yeah, but we have to make a virtue of the fact that we can't be consistent. So just hope people will accept that. But they don't. Some people say you've got to repeat that. So
now who does your blending? Is it yourself?
Well, no. I try. I just have no ability to be objective, because every single one is the best one I've ever tasted. So no, I have to get other people to help with that. And we have a panel. We have a guy from Scotland and a Swiss German lady who helps us.
Excellent.
So they have much more experience in layering these things. I come and we have arguments with our Scotch guy who comes over and will make whiskey the way they like them in Scotland, and I have to keep pushing him to put more port finished stock in there. And he's resisting, and we just push and push and push, and eventually we get there.
There's the Douro Valley there. It's some place for port, and the way they used to, transport it down the rapids in those sort of boats is incredible. Is incredible.
Now you are building your own distillery. You've said that
we're converting a building to put a distillery in. Yep.
Now, what size of capacity?
We're planning to have two stills, one of 1,000, one of 500. So very small. And purely for the authenticity of distilling our own grain. Mm-hmm. But we've been very lucky so far with Great Northern, because they've been very good to us, because our first crop, our 2018 crop, was 10 tons of barley, 5 tons malted, 5 tons unmalted. Their silos are 30 tons each. So they're emptying these huge silos to take in my tiny production. But I don't know why they do it. I hope they're not listening, because I hope they'll continue to do so. We're now this year, next week, in fact, we are distilling our 2021 crop, which is about just over 30 tons. So production's increased.
So you're expanding. You're increasing.
Yeah, but that'll be the maximum of it, and just distilling our own grain is not going to be enough to make a viable business. Yeah. So we're planning to, and it'll be about 30% of our business, I reckon, and the balance will be the whiskey bonding, and that gives you the chance to play with other people's distillate and mature it in casks that you choose. And we've got a selection of casks which connect again with the history. We've got Spanish casks. We've got rum casks, which reflects another connection of the family. So we try and make them different to the way the distillery.
Well, to be fair, you are going to be aging them in a place that no one else is aging. You know, that you have a unique area, a unique spot. But
the blending is really important as well.
Yeah, of course.
And just it's amazing what you can do with blending. And it's amazing how you can make give the semblance of greater age to younger spirit by careful blending.
I take my hat off to blenders. I think blenders are really
absolutely
they're what they do. When you consider all the sort of combinations of stuff that they have to work with, I take my hat off to them. It blows me away how clever they have to be. Now
we sort of try and simplify it by having sort of different different sort of flavor types and different. So we have some grain whiskey that's in ruby port casks. We have some grain that's in bourbon casks. We have what we also find is when we're using our port casks, the first fill, it gives you a very strong reaction, and then the second fill is a more muted.
It takes a bit longer.
But it takes longer, but it's actually a very different finish you get in that. And it's a much more subtle, and on its own, it's very nice as well. So you have to blend that through with malt that's been just finished, and it's just been in bourbon throughout its life. So you have these sort of blocks of flavors that you try and work with.
Yeah. Now, you have when your stills. Who's making your stills, by the way? Have you
we haven't commissioned them yet.
Yeah.
I just need the headspace now to get round to that, and we've been. Yeah, it's
still about 2 years away.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's a couple of years away before.
But there are stills available. There are second-hand stills available, and we will be buying second-hand stills rather than commissioning new ones.
Yeah. So that's about 2024. So you have a couple of years to go. Yeah. Will there be?
Yeah. So we're starting work on the building already. So
will there be more of a tourist offering whenever these?
Yeah, I think at the moment we sort of do VVIP tours really, and we've got a few tours lined up, and people just asked us to do tours, and just in the hundreds of pounds.
Yeah.
So we have to try and do something to make sure to justify that cost. But there's groups of 2, 4, and 6.
Yeah.
So very, very small, and those are the sort of things that I need to do myself. yeah, we're not set up to do tours yet.
No,
so
not just
and I think when there's a distillery, there's clanking machinery, there's lots of things saying do not touch, this is hot, that people will want to touch.
Yeah.
So that's the tourist thing. And there are plenty of there's a big distillery opening up around the corner, which will be a tourist destination as well. So there's quite a lot happening with tourism here,
especially down Killarney and that area.
Yeah.
You know, heading down.
It's becoming a whiskey hub now, which is really interesting, actually, because the hotels are getting excited because there is a small amount of the year where the hoteliers are not getting 100% occupancy, so they're all getting very happy that there's whiskey tourism coming, because there's in Killarney, where we are, there's a big new brewery distillery 500 yards up the road. There's a second distillery 500 yards in the other direction. You've got Dingle, you've got Port McGee, you've got Skellig 618. All of these would have Killarney as the start of the tours. So it can only bring people here.
A little whiskey mecca down in the
absolutely.
and
It'll be interesting to see whether we have a sort of regional style coming up. What is that?
Tours can be booked to carry out off license. I'll bring people in the back door via the lakes then. Yes, all the best.
We've sorry, that's not the story. But so alongside our malt and Tawny Port and our Liberator Small Batch, we have these what we call Storehouse Specials, which are small releases of interesting whiskies that we find in the storehouse, and trials for they can be cask strength versions of our existing products, single cask releases, or this one, which was a trial for a new blend that we're going to bring out, which is the slightly peated one that you were talking about, Marty. And that's my current favorite baby. It's very drinkable, but we bring these out. I think the first one we brought out because we didn't have anything to show people at Belfast Whiskey Week, so we got something together, and it went really well. And so we brought out a few subsequent releases to that. We're bringing one out in probably early March, which is this one here. And Justin, you have a sample of this as well. And this is a malt finished in muscatel sherry casks. And this is really thick, really. You won't like it, Marty. It's really sweet. And so this is delicious. It's about 59%. To me, it doesn't. It wears that very lightly. There's lots of raisins in it. It's more of a dessert wine, muscatel. But we got these casks from Jerez, and they were actually here and refilled within 2 weeks. So the freshness of the cask is really important to me, and it's really important to know what was actually in the cask beforehand. And I'm not a huge sherry fan, but the sherry in these muscatel casks was just stunning, and that's what made me decide to buy these casks. So we'll be releasing this as a cask strength Storehouse Special in March.
Your cask strength is proper cask strength. One of your previous releases was it 61 or 62% or something?
Yeah. Well, we actually tried doing that. We also have an attempt at trying to cut it to where we think it should be, which we call the blender's cut. But the cask strength people start complaining about that, and so you just let them water it down.
Let them do their own
what
thing.
do you think of that, Justin? Do you think that's quite light for 59%?
I tried it with a wee drop of water in it there.
Right.
It's you can drink it at 59%, which is a scary thing. You know, you can. It's my favorite of the three probably is the Lakeview Single Estate Pot Still.
Right.
I mean, I'm not a peat fan at all, but the Port and Peat would be second, and then that malt and muscatel would be my third one. I mean, I find my palate for whiskies has been changing over the past couple of years, so I do like to have the sweeter stuff, but for some reason, the sweeter stuff I'm going off for some reason.
Right. It's because you're listening to me. You don't need sweet. It's how the people have been conditioned to think that sweet is nice. All the other complexities, you've subtlety, you've the umami's and different textural feels that you have in your mouth. This is where things should be. And when you get port, which is not just as sweet as sherry, and you add in a little bit of smoke to it and a little bit, it brings out different combinations of different flavors. Yeah. I'll tell you something else, Maurice. I genuinely take my hat off to you for. Thank you for bringing out bottles at an affordable price, because you're bringing out half bottles, which people can spend 30 euros or whatever it is, 35 euros.
Not 30. It'll be 35 will be the cheapest. Yeah.
Well, 35 euro.
Yeah.
You know,
but it enables people to try it and see whether they like it.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's far too much emphasis now on people. They bring out bottles and it's all collectible bottles and 150 euros, and people can't buy them and stuff. You're bringing out bottles of a spirit which you've passion and complexity and history, and you can buy into a story at an affordable price, which ordinary working class people can go out and buy. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Much appreciated.
Well, I'm afraid we will break your heart on the single estate.
That's a different kettle of fish.
we're actually going to bring some of this out. I mean, it was March the 12th that it's 3 years old, and actually Whiskey Live was supposed to be on March the 12th. So Whiskey Live in Dublin is now in June, so we might bring it out then. But we're probably going to bring out a very small coming of age release, and then have an inaugural release later. So the coming of age release is going to be expensive. You'll have to wait.
You guys should be making the profit on the inaugural releases. I was talking about White Peak Distillery, and last week it was Loch Lee. The Loch Lee Distillery brought out, I think it was 7,000 bottles of their inaugural release, all gone straight away. And there was actually bottles of it on auction sites before it was released, because people knew they had already secured bottles and had them on auction sites before they were released. Initial releases, they should be expensive, and the money should go to the producers.
But I'd sort of like you sort of want people to be you're building a brand, you're building something for the future, you're not building it to charge people a lot of money on an inaugural release. Really, you want to people to try it and buy the second bottle.
I think these days people don't drink their inaugural releases; they keep them and then buy the second bottle to try it. That's basically what's happening.
And the third and the fourth is what
you're looking for. But bringing out bottles that are affordable artisanal stuff that you're getting and bringing them out at that £35 or whatever it is really, really commendable. Now, for anybody who isn't sure, that isn't in Ireland or whatever, who the O'Connell family are. If you've ever been to Dublin, the main thoroughfare, the main street everybody been on, the O'Connell Monument is slap bang. That's where you are. So anybody who's not sure, this is what you're buying.
That's not actually me. So
that's not Maurice. That's not Maurice after.
Yes.
You'll be at the top of the street. You'll be up at Parnell Square. But no, this is sort of a brand familiarity. If you've ever been to Dublin and been to to down O'Connell Street and the GPO and the Spire and all that. This is what you're buying into. You're buying into this lineage and history and a story, and it's being
but the drink itself is the really important part, and I wonder if people will see the history and see, it's a brand selling the history, but
I don't think that's the point. I think the thing about it is there's so many aspects to drinking a whiskey, and when you've got the story behind the O'Connell family and the importation, and you're buying, people have that affiliation and affinity with what it is, and there's lots of bad whiskies out there that put a story to it, but you've actually brought out a product that's very affordable, very good quality, very drinkable, and also has a story that people can understand and relate to. And I think it's to be commended for what you've done and when you've done it. And when you've done it.
Thank you. And I hope you'll enjoy our banana whiskey when we bring that out.
Honestly, I don't know. There's so many.
Have you tried the Jameson Orange one?
Yes.
I haven't. I was wondering what it's like.
Let's just say awful would be a good word.
Okay.
I do a review. I have a review of this coming up. Henry McKenna. Now remember, Justin, we did the book review of the McKenna.
We did, Connections to here, yes, yeah.
Guy from Draperstown went to Kentucky, opened this distillery, and it was quality all the way. Well, they've ruined that with this rubbish.
No.
Yeah, but it when you get.
But I suppose you're only as good as your last album, really. So
yeah, but the thing is, when you can buy into a story, and when you have a history and a story, and all of that can be put into a bottle and a label, it adds to everything. It adds.
I hope so.
It does, and where you are, when you get your still up and running, and people can come down and spend a little bit of time down in Killarney in that beautiful setting that you have. I am envious of when it'll happen, because we will be down. Me and Justin will come down and say hello.
Well, you're both very welcome anytime. So
it's beautiful down there. It's a long time since I've done a tour down that way. A long time. I know there are.
But there's so much whiskey stuff happening here now that it's going to be a good time for Killarney whiskey. And Mr. Fleming, who's been on here making odd comments, he's a big part of it. He runs the carry out in Killarney. They've been very good to us, and keep his tills rimming.
Frank Heron says, "Me too."
There you go. Listen, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Remember to comment, like, and share. We're on live Saturday nights, 10 p.m. Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitch. We're also a repeat on Instagram, and also wherever you get your podcasts from. Ask your smart speaker to play Irish Whiskey Review Podcast, and up we'll pop tomorrow, because I'm not doing it tonight. But last week's well. So good evening, everybody. Thank you for watching. Linda Cox is saying good evening. Thanks, lads. Thank you very much. And catch you next time. Same time, same place.